You can do that. There we are. Yes. Hey, Kenneth.
How you doing? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are things with you?
Good, great.
So what we're going to do here is the format of the talk is we bring you to the stage. If you want to speak for maybe a couple of minutes, 10 minutes, and then we'll go to Q&A. So we're going to ask the people to, start, clicking in their questions in the Q&A here. And then we'll get you started, Kenneth.
1 second, I just want to check my microphone here.
Okay, I can hear it fine.
It seems to be using, it won't pick up my Yeti,
Okay.
But what I'll do is I'll just abandon that and I might plug in. Now, can I hear you?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you a bit better there. I don't know, for some reason.
Oh, you sound good.
Yeah, my Yeti's not working for some reason, but we'll just go off the computer one.
Okay.
But I'm sounding okay anyway.
You're sounding great.
Yeah. How's it going for you so far?
Really good. Really good. It's hectic, but it's gonna I just carved down some cinnamon rolls, in between, and I'm gonna yeah. All right, Kenneth,
sure.
You have the stage.
Okay. Great. So this is nothing being everything. Right now, a sense of sitting on a chair, sounds, maybe thoughts, feelings, sensations, whatever appears to be, is no thing being everything. As a person, it can feel very much like there is a living in something. It's a sense that I'm a person and there's a world out there and I'm negotiating through that world, usually in a linear fashion. There's a past, my past behind me, I'm in the present and I'm moving into the future. And it's a sense, it's a subject-object reality from which I am the subject and everything else is an object to me. So from that perception, it's only something that is seen. So the person lives in a world of something and nothing isn't seen. And that perception is very unsatisfactory for the person. And there's a yearning for that apparently separate person. There's a yearning for wholeness. There's a yearning for this, just what appears to be, which is nothing being everything. But from that sense of a separate self, nothing is not seen and cannot be seen. It's not you that will see nothing. It is that it may be that this artificial contracted sense of being separate, of feeling that there's life and there's me with my life, that can collapse, apparently collapse. And then everything is new. Everything is whole and complete and indescribable and immediate, totally immediate and unknowable and stunning and completely ordinary. It's not special. Special, not special, are a feature of feeling like a separate self. So really this is unconditional love already. What appears to be is unconditional love, not the love that interpersonal love that the person thinks of. But this is already unconditional love for no one. And what the person feels they're searching for to fill this sense of yearning for wholeness is not something, because the person's living in something. They think that if they get something, they will be there. That something could be a job promotion, a load of money, an experience, a spiritual experience, whatever it is, a state, I think, a state of whatever, mindfulness, being in the moment. These are all the ideas the person has of what they're looking for. And actually what's being looked for is already simply what appears to be. And that's why it's hardly hiding. It's already just this. So this is shared from no thing. It's nobody's message. I don't know this. I don't have anything nobody else has. It's from no thing, and there's a resonance to this. There's a resonance when it's shared in this way, when there's a question from no thing and an answer from no thing. And really, what's been said today is it's nothing to do with understanding. The person thinks that they're going to get something or understand something, and then they'll be there. It's not knowable, it's not gettable, it's not understandable, and it's actually to do with a resonance. It's an energetic resonance that for the person can feel very confronting, because the personal energy is a closed loop of knowing, living in your own knowing, and this is unknowable. So what's been said here is not being said to by anybody, and it's also not being said to an individual, because from this perception there is no individual. It's just energy. There is only energy, only aliveness. So what's also a feature of this is that what's looked for is remarkably ordinary, stunningly ordinary, and absolutely nothing to do with you. And when you feel like a person, it feels like everything is to do with you. So what's looked for has to be to do with you. How, neurotic you are, how, fucked up you are, maybe. I don't know, the list goes on and on. You're not enough this and you're too much that. And the big joke is that you're not there. So what's yearned for, that story of how you are, is completely irrelevant.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kenneth. We're going to open up the floor, if you like, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
For some Q&A. If you guys want to type in your questions, there's a Q&A button there that you can type questions. We're going to go through some questions with Kenneth here. Andrew Hodges asks, I have moments when the sense of I seems to fade. I have no idea who I am. It feels completely empty, very weird. Then apparently I am back. Did this apparently happen to Kenneth?
There can be a sense of kind of in and out. It didn't happen to me, nothing happened to me. But when there was a apparent falling away and there was only this, or there was only what appeared to be, then the sense of separation kind of came back, but it wasn't ever the same. And then I guess the only things I could say about it was, at one point there was a sense that there was a sense of being there again, and there was a yearning. There was a very, very, very strong yearning for what had been seen. And then it was seen that it was the yearning. It was already the yearning. And then the whole thing kind of collapsed in a way. And there was only whatever appeared to be. It's not describable, but it's very typical for there to be a feeling of that kind of in and out. There can be. It doesn't have to be, but.
This is a fun question, Kenneth, from Denise. Is that an Irish accent from the nothing that is showing up as you?
Is that an Irish accent? That is, yeah. A beautiful Irish accent. Nobody's. Yeah. It's an aspect of the character.
There's a question here from Rob Hearn. This is a long one. So Rob Hearn states, I have found that since coming across this message, I have become much more effective in life, particularly in relation to work. There seems to be an effortless freedom in how I function, and I'm not caught up in any dramas or politics as I have been in the past. This awakening seems to make life increasingly easy. Do you have any thoughts on this?
life without you there is flows easier. You could say that, yeah. But the difficulty with saying that then is it sounds attractive to the person, that this is something that they can make everything better for them. But invariably, whatever roles are happening, and there's only whatever that role is, let's call it work, and then there's the artificial addition of me to it. That artificial addition of me is completely useless, completely, totally and utterly useless. So when it's no longer there, there can be a sense of things kind of flowing a bit better, yeah.
From Ben, hi, what was your process of investigation? What were the questions and truths that helped break down the illusion? Thanks.
So there was no process. There is no process, and very clear from this communication that you can't, there's no process to get to where you already are. It may appear that there's a process, and for the person, because the person lives in a sense of a linear movement through life, and there's causality, things, they appear to lead to each other and cause another thing. And it appears then that what's been suggested, that Kenneth would have done something that resulted in this apparent falling away, and it's not like that at all. So it was that there was just what appeared to be. In actuality, it happened on a Vipassana meditation weekend, unfortunately, because I joke when I say unfortunately, because you would logically think that Vipassana, the meditation, brought about the end of apparent Kenneth, and that's not actually how it is. There was a good friend of mine recommended this, and there was no expectation or idea of it, and there was just what appeared to happen, and then everything was just seen as it is. Nothing and everything, but not by anybody. It was an enormous, explosive, and also gentle, indescribable shift, and also nothing happened. So logically, the mind would have thought, well, it was the meditation, so there's a period of time kind of meditating, but from the very, very beginning, there was a sense that this is not something that can be arrived at through process, and that I didn't get anywhere through process, and that the meditation was actually completely irrelevant. That was very strong. So it is already this. Any sense of a process will only reinforce the sense of a separate me who can do something, and therefore feed that separate sense of me. There's either you are already whole and complete, and this is already it, and that is either seen or it isn't, and the sense of being a separate me is going to play out as it plays out. What's been suggested now, a clear, uncompromising message, can very much resonate and is resonating, and that it can be quite clear that there's only this. But it wouldn't be caused by this message. Cause and effect are very much an aspect of the separate me. Process is very much emanates from a sense of a person who can do or not do.
Thank you, Kenneth. NNN has a question. When the physical body of someone who's no longer identified with it dies, how does it feel as if the body existed? Did you get that? Want me to repeat it? When
I don't really get that one.
When the physical body of someone who is no longer identified with it dies, how does it feel as if the body existed?
It's not describable. This isn't describable. So the sense here is that there's no sense anymore of being in here, in this body. There's no sense of having someone in here who has a life. There's only what appears to be happening. So there's now a computer, there's a light flashing here, there's a sound in the headphones, there's a sensation of sitting on a chair. It's that ordinary, but it's not describable. It's just, it's boundless, whole and complete and totally ordinary and unknowable. For nobody, it's just what appears to be.
Thank you. This one is an anonymous question. Can one get bored after liberation? Not just bored in the moment, I mean bored with life.
I would not say so, no, because bored with life would, for me, would be somebody who has a life and is bored with a thing called life. You know, when it's just this, anything can arise, and everything is allowed, anything can arise, but it would arise for nobody. It would just be what would appear to be. One misconception is that the mind's idea is that if someone fell away, then you would be in a state of kind of untouchable bliss or peace and nowness or some nonsense, you know, and that it wouldn't kind of, nothing would bother you, anger wouldn't happen, pain, all of this. And it's completely different to that. It's absolute full-on aliveness for nobody, because when there's a you there, there's a you who's apparently there filtering what's apparently happening, and it's a half alive feeling, and in that is a continual sense of trying to increase the pleasure and push away the pain. So that all collapses, and there's just what appears to be happening, whether it's pleasurable or painful. It doesn't actually matter.
Awesome. Sank asks, is there any moment in life this message would be inappropriate to communicate to someone, such as after trauma, rape, etc., when the person is looking for emotional attunement and healing?
It's not being communicated to anyone. That's the first thing. This is not being spoken to anyone. This is the major difference between the vast majority of communications. Involves somebody who speaks to somebody else and tells them about a thing called non-duality and how they can become whole and complete. Absolute nonsense. There's a totally different energy to it. So this has never been spoken to anybody, and it only comes from no thing, and it's just completely unpredictable where it will arise. I cannot say when it would arise, but it doesn't. It seems to arise when there's a question. There's a kind of a question out of no thing, and it's very energetic. It's totally energetic. So there's a kind of a draw to it and a question and an interest in it. And then that's how it kind of dances. But if there's a resistance to it or a sense of not wanting to hear this message, because it has no agenda whatsoever, it generally doesn't come out then.
This one is from Harvey. Harvey asks, well, there is no process, as you say. Are there things that the illusory person can do to facilitate this awakening?
If there was anything that you think you can do only reinforces the sense that there's a you that can do or not do something. So that's it's a terrible message. It's an absolutely horrendous message for the person, because they're so used of this sense of progressively moving towards something and doing or not doing, and this contracted energy of feeling separate is a lived reality, and to encounter this communication can be extremely confronting. And that's the way it is. Doesn't have to be, but it can be. And it can be confronting and also resonate. It's very common for this, what's been said, because this is completely known already. You are already what's been looked for. You are unconditional love. You are wholeness already. It's never been any other way. It's completely known. It's as familiar as breathing It's so obvious, it's too obvious. So this can totally resonate and at the same time be rejected by that sense of that closed loop of that energy of being a person. Doesn't want anything to do with what's being said. That's why it's not being spoken to.
Thank you. Travis asks, is there a conditioned body that prefers not going to work? Or would you describe that feeling as the dream character preference?
It's
Want me
just
to
what appears to be happening then, yeah. Not wanting to go to work is what appears to be happening, you know. So yeah, it's just what appears to be happening. That could possibly arise when there's also well, there is never anyone there anyway, but it doesn't matter. It's just what appears to be happening. Yeah. Anything, any sense could come, you know, anything, as I said, everything's allowed, anything could arise, but it would arise for no one.
Thank you. This one is from Brent. When the sense of I seems to fade, it is completely obvious that this is the mystery, that there is no separation and that it's always been this way. However, there are times when all of this is less than obvious or somehow forgotten. Do you experience this sense of obviousness? Does it come and go?
There's nobody here who sees it as being obvious. There's just an immediacy of just, there's a living in the unknown. There's just what appears to be, that's all. There's nobody who sometimes it's obvious for and then it's not obvious. So there's only what appears to be arising. So anything can appear to happen.
This one is from Matt. So because there's no process, the person has no control of when the falling away happens. It just happens when it happens?
No, the falling away doesn't happen. So more good news, huh? The falling away is an apparent falling away because what's been suggested is the sense of being separate is artificial. It's not real. So when people are waiting for them to fall away, they're waiting for something that's artificial and is never real in the beginning to not be there, but it's not real to begin with. So it doesn't actually fall away. It's when it appears to fall away, it's very obvious for nobody that it was never real in the first place.
This is this is from Shens. Is it true that one seen cannot be unseen? Seeing through the illusion of separate self, that is.
Yeah, it is kind of the head in the tiger's mouth stuff, that when it's glimpsed, when it's very strongly seen, it's very obvious. And everything, experience is kind of pale beside this. Any experience you can imagine, not kind of, very much pale beside a glimpse of wholeness. But it's not you that glimpses wholeness. It's that it may be that the sense of a separate self apparently falls away and there's only everything, and then apparently comes back again and is left there wondering what happened and what was that. But it's undeniable. It's undeniable. It's like the sky is blue. It's just, there's not, it's extremely, it's a cellular lived reality of wow. And then the yearning, and it can also be very gentle though. It doesn't have to be a big fireworky explosion thing. It can be extremely, there's no rules around it. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question. There is a resonance with the message, but the illusions still remain. Is there an advice? Surrender? Give up?
Who would surrender? Who would give up? There's never any advice. This is the most non-prescriptive message you're ever going to hear. There is only what appears to be happening. There's only what appears to be. So if there's a resonance with it, then there's a resonance. If there's a sense of, oh, it's not this, it is already the sense, oh, it's not this. It is always, always, always only what appears to be. It's never, you can never escape what is being looked for. So the example I gave earlier with this character was, it was there was a sense of the person being back, and it was a strong, huge yearning for wholeness again, or for what was seen again. And it was seen that it was the yearning itself, not the resolution of it. And then everything can just kind of collapse then, apparently.
Next question from Susan. How can some religions talk about karma and reincarnation? Jesus said, we reap what we saw. I guess they talk about how energies manifest. It seems like there is a cause.
Yeah, it does. Like in the world of that we apparently live in, there is very much cause and effect. Like what's being suggested here is complete madness in the normal run of things. So religions are a part of that story, and all the major religions are dogmatic, prescriptive teachings to an apparently separate self, that if they behave in a certain way, then they'll get there. There's increasingly now in the apparent world, there's an energy of a seeing through of authority, a crumbling of apparent authority, and there's more of an opening now to what's being said here, that there is only just this. There is only what appears to be, and there's nobody above who knows anything, and there's nowhere to get to. It seems there's more of an opening now to what's been said. But all religions are just another. They just feed the story. Yeah, they're not wrong or right. They just feed the story.
Anonymous question: is there a constant experience of lack and neediness, money or partner? Is it possible this intelligence, this mystery, which we all are, to influence this?
No, nothing is influenceable. The sense of being a separate person is not touchable, reachable, or influenceable. It just appears to play out as it plays out.
Next one is from David. I've recently started experiencing physical phenomena when listening to this message, both a feeling of an energetic sensation around my center and also involuntary body spasms triggered around my core muscles, which are painless. I haven't heard of others experiencing this. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's not as common, but I've seen it. It can be because, as I said earlier, that it's an energetic resonance, and the sense of being a contracted self is a cellular contraction, apparent cellular contraction in the body. This can be very much resonate on a cellular level in the body. I've seen it. I've seen it a few times, quite markedly, actually. People kind of almost a little bit shaken, and yeah. So I've seen it happen. Yeah.
From Anne's, is a shift needed?
No, nothing's needed. Nothing's required. This is already boundless, unconditional love. This, a foot tapping, a head nodding, sounds. This is it. It's already just what appears to be. It's whole and complete and boundless, as it is always.
From Terry, I assume you still engage with life, play games, travel, read, look at daily horoscope, perhaps. Do these energies arise?
The horoscope. How could I miss the horoscope?
Are you playing a part in being engaged?
No, I don't have anything, and you don't have anything either, but you think you have something called a me. So I don't engage in anything. When I felt like a person, apparently I felt I was there, and I felt I engaged in life, because there was life and there was my life, apparently, and that was an illusion through which everything isn't seen as it is. So now this is just, there's what appears to be happening. There's no sense of someone in here who's separate, who engages in anything. there's nobody here who experiences anything, because to experience something, you would have to be separate from that experience. So it would have to be life and then you separate from it. It's an abstraction and it's an illusion. And it's the same everywhere, except that if there's someone who feels that they engage in life, that is absolutely artificial.
From Tim, how are actions done in a state of no one?
How are actions in a state of no one?
How are actions?
I've lost
How are actions done in a state of no one?
Yeah, it's not understandable. What's being suggested here is not understandable. So the person hears what's being said here, and all they can see is somebody else, because they feel like a somebody, and they feel they cannot understand how anything would even appear to happen without someone in there doing it. So they say, well, it's impossible. It's such an arrogance, actually, the sense that nothing would happen without me. And the big joke is you're not there. You're not there. You never have been there. There's nobody here moving these hands around. There's just hands moving. And this can sound very, very strange for that feels separate, a separate person, because they're trying to understand it and they can only see from that viewpoint, and it's not understandable. And it's remarkably ordinary, and it is also the case with that apparent separate self. They are being done also.
Thank you. Art states a question. You often describe as stunning or extraordinary, but does this every seem dull or boring as well?
Yeah, it is. It's probably slightly overstated when in one way, but not in another way, because it is so remarkably stunning that it can't be described, and it's also so remarkably ordinary that it can't be described, because it's just ordinary leaves moving on a tree. There's a car, there's bushes, there's the sun hitting the field out there, there's the computer. To the person who sees the leaves, so there's a sense of me. I can see the leaves on the tree, I can see the sun hitting the field, I can see the computer, I can hear the sounds. Everything is stale and secondhand, and the immediate boundless isness is not seen. The nothing, the nothing conference. Got to get the nothing in there. Got to plug the nothing. The nothing, because the person is living in something, and nothing is not seen. But it is remarkably ordinary too. Like stunning when you say it's stunning for the person, they think of it in terms of that dualism of ordinary and extraordinary. But they collapse when there's no longer somebody. Everything collapses. There's no opposites. And there's just an isness, and indescribable isness.
Thank you for noting there. Andy asked, as I move into the blur of I experience confusion in how to interact in the day-to-day, i.e., how do we even say good morning if there's no good or bad, or how are we you when there is no you and I?
You
Does that
don't
make any
say
sense?
good morning. Yeah, you don't say good morning. You're still imagining someone there. How I move in the I. It's still going back one. It's still a sense of how do I get through life if I'm not there? You're not there now. You've never said good morning. You've never said good morning. There's just been good morning, and then the false addition of a sense of somebody who said good morning. And this is what is the sense of dissatisfaction and the sense of something not quite being right or whole. This is the sense of life not being, there's something missing, is this veil of a parent person who thinks that they're there doing everything. And it's a dream.
Thank you. Barb asks, what caused this to happen? As you say, be revealed to always have been the case.
Nothing caused it to happen, because it is already, you are already unconditional love. You are already wholeness. And in that wholeness, there's a sense, a contracted sense that you're a separate person. And that will play out as it plays out. It can be that it can appear to collapse and the sense of me can come back. It will play out completely as it plays out. In the story of life, there's very much reinforced that you are a person with choice and free will, and that you have a life and you need to make choices to make it a good life, blah, 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 and you're moving into the future. Now there's communication, which is nobody's communication, which is clear and uncompromising, and is cutting through all of that and revealing, clearly pointing to that this is, you are already whole and complete. And it can really resonate now. And it can cut through the confusion that there is a me there, and it can illuminate the artificial nature of the self. But it's not happy. Nobody's doing it. It's coming from nothing.
Brilliant. Thank you.
You nearly fell asleep there, I'd say.
No. Just question. What do you think about psychedelics to quicken liberation?
I think it's an interesting one, because psychedelics I find interesting. It's become very popular, and there's a huge interest now in psychedelics, and tons of literature about the sense of a separate self falling away with psychedelics. It's very commonly described. It's been written about for a long time. And so there's also a very logical notion that if I do psilocybin or ayahuasca or whatever, that many other ones, that it could bring about the end of me, because in that experience there's something appears to happen, that the sense of separation can fall away. So the take on it here is that the difficulty with it is there's a parent person who apparently does psychedelics, and is, whatever the experience is what it is. But that energy of a person is there to collect the experience on the other side. So therefore, if you feel you can do psychedelics to get rid of the artificial sense of me, it's a closed loop, and you will only continue to reinforce that there's a sense of me who can do something to get rid of the me. Psychedelics are fascinating. I think they're very, very interesting, and they're very topical now. I mean, you read about them in mainstream newspapers, mainstream television, are talking about all these big studies being done in relation to PTSD, depression, so on and so forth. It's a powerful, powerful thing, and I find it interesting, but there's absolutely no process through which a person can engage to get rid of something that's artificial, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Otherwise, and I have people do ayahuasca after ayahuasca after ayahuasca after ayahuasca, thinking that they will finally get the one that there'll only be wholeness then, so yeah, so that's my answer anyway.
Thank you. Sank asks, the practical experiencing of separation when I eat, my stomach gets filled and not someone else's. Obviously continues. In the language of nothing, how could you describe this type of separation? Could you just say here and there?
So yeah, oh, absolutely. One of the misconceptions I've heard over the years when speaking about this is, well, if there's only wholeness, well, tell me what that guy's thinking. Tell me what he's thinking, And it's not like that. It's not like that at all. This is seen by nothing that there is only energy, everything is energy, and that this energy is a Kennethine, you could put it that way, and that it's all one, but it's not understandable or knowable, and it's not seen by anybody, and it's not any idea the mind has of it is complete nonsense. And it's much more stunning than anything the mind could conjure up.
This one is anonymous question. What is the experience of death of the person? What happens?
Nothing happens. I'm unsure is the question to what is it death in general, or, but I mean in death, when you feel like a separate person, when there's a sense of being a separate person, there's a living in something and no thing isn't seen. So there's a sense that there's life, and then there's this big black blobby thing called death. And in actuality, there's life and death are not two things, it's one. So in exactly the same way, you could say something, life, and no thing are one. So there's not something and nothing, there's this is something being nothing and nothing being something. So there is no death actually. There's only death from the perception of that artificial sense of self that's living in something that sees something else that is then ended. But it's all energy. So there's no beginning or end to anything. It's quite obvious actually.
Awesome. Barb goes, why are more people waking up now than in the past?
I don't know. Nobody wakes up either. That's the other thing. Like there is this spiritual kind of message that people are waking up and there's collective consciousness and the world is waking up. It's all a story. Nobody wakes up. An awakening is from this perspective, is a drop of the artificial sense of being me. It doesn't happen to anybody. It seems to be more frequent now, apparently. There's a shift, there's an energetic shift out of that sense of there being a higher authority that should tell you how to live your life, and a prescriptive, dogmatic way of prescribing you how to do everything and how to get there, to there being an energy to maybe there's nowhere to get to. Maybe there's nowhere to get to, and clearly that authority is artificial. So that's what appears to be happening. But it's not. When you say it, it sounds like a story. Then it can be very much story that there's loads of people awakening, and there's going to be this big awakening, and the world's going to be a better place. There is no world actually.
Next one here. Is it possible to truly believe in stories after liberation? Things like past lives or astrology, etc. If not, how do you ever miss believing in stories?
No, there's no believing in anything. Everything is lost actually. Everything is lost. All kind of concepts about the world, all belief systems, all of that just collapses, and there's only what appears to be. And then there's stories, and that's just life story, and it is what it appears to be.
This one is from Kathy Can. I appreciate you, Kenneth. What you're describing is outside of thought. You jump on our carousel of misunderstanding by answering our questions. Take us there outside of thought. Can you manage a way to show us outside of words?
There's no need. Words are just what appears to be. Words both are and aren't. It's just it's an energy. It's just an energy. I said that at the beginning. It's just to do with an energy. Words are not a problem in any way. People who drill into words and non-dualistic language and all that, it's all irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's an energy. What's being suggested here could be resonating, and that's it then. And there's nowhere to get to with this. If there's a sense of hearing what's being said, there's nothing here that needs to be held on to. are understood. It's just, yeah.
Thank you. Uh, Anonymous question. If there is no body here, then how does one pick a partner for marriage?
Nobody picks anyone. You have to go into the internet, into a lottery system, and someone pops out. No, there's nobody. There is nobody. So a partner is what appears to be happening. Then there's no relationship actually with anything, because relationship comes from a sense of being separate to the whole, and then there's me and there's something else, and there's time and space between that thing and me, and there's an interaction, and that's all a story. So when there's no longer sense of being self, a separate self, then husbanding appears to happen, brothering appears to happen, and it's life brothering, life husbanding, and it's all just, there's nobody in there, and there's a wonderful freedom to everything. It's stunning. Everything is just, wow, it's free to be as it is. It's not imprisoned in that sense of a you and it, that relationship. It's not bound in that.
This one is from Sid. I'm confused by the idea of embodiment. I am embodied as awareness. How to think of the body and embodiment in it? Thanks.
Awareness is actually irrelevant. Awareness is a feature of separation. It's when there's a sense of being separate, so there's the world out there and there's me, there's a sense of awareness of other. There has to be a separation for there to be awareness. And consciousness I pretty much use in the same way, because I think they're mostly interchangeable, in that people mean, they refer to the same thing. And there's a sense that that's very important as a person, that it's a really integral part of being a person, and it's somehow the key to unlock what's being looked for. And the big joke is it's totally irrelevant, because it's only an aspect of that apparent person. The embodied thing was when I was speaking about the sense of being a separate person. It's like embodied in the sense that, like, it's like this energy that I am in here, bound by this skin, and maybe behind the eyes. So there's the eyes, there's the skin, there's the features of the body and all the internal organs, and there's me in there. And it's ridiculous. There's my mind, there's me and my mind. Use your mind. You know, you could buy tons of books about how you can use your mind better, as if you're in there and somewhere that has the mind. So the embodied thing, I wouldn't get hung up on it. It was just a term in trying to describe that sense of being separate.
This is my favorite question of the day. Thank you, Denise. This is awesome. Do you experience taste of food when you eat?
Do I experience taste of food when I eat? So when there's a person, an apparent person, there's eating, and there's somebody who's tasting that. There's a sense of somebody who's tasting. That sense of somebody is artificial. It's not real. And all the while, you could also say everything is real and unreal, including the sense of self. Everything, because it's no thing and everything. It's real and unreal. The person appears to live only in the real. So when that artificial sense of self is no longer, and it's seen it never was, there is only eating. There's nobody and there's only taste. So if there's let's say a mango, there's mangoing. There's nobody who's tasting mango. And that sense of somebody who's tasting mango is artificial. And it's that causes the sense of yearning to see life as it really is, which is just life, mangoing.
Thank you. Tim says thank you. So I'll thank you. And then there's another question. Who or what is making things happen in our lives? And do you think there's a reason why so many people are interested in awakening at this time in history?
There's nobody influencing our lives. They're not our lives. That's a sense of being a person who has a life. What is being suggested here for the last apparent 45 minutes is that there is only energy. There's nobody who, there's not life and your life. There's just energy. There's just life. So there's nobody who influences anybody. When there's a sense of being a person, there's very much a sense of something higher, an authority or a higher being who then influences us in some way. That's all a dream.
This one is another question. Could you describe what the filter of selfing holds in place in the presence of truth?
There's no truth. There is no truth. There's only truth for the person. This is real and unreal. It's completely, immediately just this. It's not knowable or understandable. This is not true what I'm saying, because truth is for something for the person. You're not even asked to believe what I'm saying, because that would be an idea or a concept you're taking on. I got hung up on the truth part. I can't remember the other part of the question.
I remember it too. Let me read it. Just
The
filter. Could you describe what the filter of selfing holds in place in the presence of truth?
Yeah, the filter is the artificial you. You are the filter. So it's not that the filter holds something else in place. So there's life pouring through the senses, sensations in the body, smell, touch. You could include thought, feelings, what's coming through, what's being seen, what's being heard, etc. Blah blah blah. And then there is a sense then of that what's being seen is filtered through this me. What's being heard is being heard by me. What's being smelt is being smelt by me. What's being touched is being touched by me. And all the while that goes unquestioned, that sense of a me. And what's being said here, right now, not that there's a now, but is that sense of being separate is artificial. And what's actually yearned for and looked for is just this, what appears to be happening.
Thank you. This one is an anonymous question. What is the maturing of awakening?
I don't really understand that. I mean, there's no maturing. There's nobody who awakens. You know, these appear to me to be kind of spiritual terms. I have no interest in spirituality. It just really feeds the person. It's another thing for the person to do. So that in that whole world of spirituality, there's somebody who awakens, and it's a maturing towards possibly liberation, maybe, or enlightenment or something. And all of that is just complete story, and it feeds the apparent sense of self to go around in their closed loop. Boom, boom, boom. What's being suggested here is not obtainable, not knowable, and is just immediately just this. It's not a process in any way. There is nobody who can do or not do.
Next one is from Art. Do you see a danger in the me taking credit for a falling away of a sense of me?
Not a danger, no, because danger. That's not there's no danger in anything, because the me will appear to do what it appears to do, and it is of no significance whatsoever. So if that is typically what happens, though, if there's walking down the road and there's leaves falling from a tree, and suddenly it's just, oh, there's just this. There's leaves falling from a tree, and maybe your phone rings and a car goes by, and everything is kind of, it's just, there's an indescribable wholeness to everything. You can't, and just it's not, you can't describe it, but it's totally ordinary. And then it's very typical for then there tends to be that sense of me can kind of come back again. And then the person would invariably think, well, what did I see there? What did I get there? What did I glimpse there? And actually, it was that you fell away, apparently. So it was no you. That's why it was whole and complete. But it already is whole and complete, always. So it's not, that's all that tends to be it, is that the me claims, the me is monstrous. It claims everything. It's like a black hole. It just sucks in everything. But there's no issue with that. There's no issue with this, because like from this perception, there's only energy, and people go, well, I'm a me, and you go, okay, fair enough. There's no issue. There's nothing wrong or right with any of that.
This one from Michael. I share what you are saying, but I wonder if this only happens to comfortable middle-class people who have quite secure lives.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen to anybody. Middle class, upper class, lower class. It's not a happening. And it is absolutely, completely beyond any race, class, anything like that. There's no, it's no boundary. There's no boundary. It's just total aliveness. How could it be happening apparently more in middle class? Maybe in the spiritual realm, that there's people who have more time on their hands and they think they're awakened or something, and they tend to be of a certain kind of profile, you know, but
This one from JQ. Why do people like you recognize and see through the dreams and I don't?
I don't recognize or see through the dream. There's still a projection there, because there's a sense of someone there, that there's a me here. All there is what appears to be, and this comes from nothing. It actually comes from nothing. There's nothing known here. It's not a bank of knowledge that is accessed. It's just boom. And there's a passion for liberation, and there's a passion for life as it actually is, that is nobody's. There's a passion for this communication.
Next one is from Isa. The apparent awakening could be followed by falling asleep again, as everything, nothing moves in cycles. Would you say?
Yeah, apparently, yeah, it doesn't matter. It could be. There could be that, as we had described, there can be this kind of a boom. It could be a gentle sense that there's only this, and it seems to be a kind of a sense of me can come back then and kind of wonder what happened. Now, there is a very clear, uncompromising communication that belongs to nobody, that is illuminating that nothing happened to you, that their sense of being a you apparently fell away. And that's more available now.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. We have a few minutes left, but I still have a lot of questions. So Andy, can Kenneth expand more on what he was saying, that there's no mass waking up?
This is nothing appearing to happen. So there's nothing actually happening. So in the story, there's a sense of there's all these awakenings, and then there's going to be a mass awakening of human beings, as if there's something happening, and it has some significance or meaning. Significance and meaning only come from the story of separation. So there is only just no thing being everything, which is not understandable or noble. So there's only just what appears to be. It's not going, like, it's not getting anywhere. There's nowhere to get to.
Nancy comments, brilliant talk. Thank you, Ken.
Yes, thank you, Nancy. I speak on Zoom most weeks, and if you check out my website, and it's a stunning communication. It's absolutely amazing. It has nothing to do with Kenneth. And it continually amazes this character. It's absolutely stunning and completely ordinary, and asks nothing of anybody, because it sees nobody. It only sees wholeness and unconditional love. And when it resonates, it's just so stunning. Yeah. and so different to the raw mush that we're usually fed of. There's a totally different energy by being spoken to by somebody, and that sense of how you can get somewhere energetically, it's completely different.
Last few questions here. Maybe one more question. What time is it? Yeah, one last question here. Again, if we can't answer your question, you can go to Kenneth's Zoom meetings. They're brilliant. What is the role?
I like the bell there that just rang just as you said that.
I know,
that was well done.
It's very
rehearsed that. We had rehearsed that quite a while.
We did. What is the role of the mind in all of this?
No role, really. I mean, the mind, for the person, the mind is king. And there's a sense that everything is knowable and understandable. So that sense of being a person is a closed loop of knowing. Whereas in fact, everything is unknowable. It's the unknown. And that's what's yearned for. And an echo of this is how we are drawn to the unknown, and we are aware that to be more fully alive, it's to go into the unknown because we're stuck in a rut, but we're also afraid of that. That kind of echoes what's being suggested here. That's a feature of being a person, because what's yearned for is actually your own absence. And what you're more afraid of than anything is your own absence, is death.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. You went through 41 questions.
We're only getting started, Emerson. Seriously.
I know. We should do we should do a 48 hours of just you, and I'll help you. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's an absolute pleasure. It's just stunning, and it's really, it's beautiful. It's amazing, and it's no thing.
It's no thing. It's no thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We're going to close the webinar now. Thank you so much, Kenneth. We'll see you soon. Much. We'll hang out soon on Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please go back to the event home base in about 15 minutes. You can sign back in. We have Richard Sylvester, and I'll come back with an Irish accent.
Yeah.
Take care.
You have the hat anyway, so
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Halfway there.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
See everyone
Emerson.
back in 15 minutes. Thank you.